So here I am with Riz, who heads up our digital team. And as soon as we're in that flow of ask and find out, you might as well just ask it in the studio. So I've pulled everybody in, and as they're asking questions, I'd rather be talking about it on the mic, and then we can take it from there. So Riz is kind of our in-house entrepreneur of sorts. I think you wanted to ask a question about that.
Well, pretty much so. So I think the burning question for me is, you are technically now a global citizen.
Yeah.
An entrepreneur who runs 3 businesses. How do you do that without burning out, A, and B, without being in one place at a given time?
So, the fortunate thing is that we're running businesses that can run remotely. That's a massive thing, right? In terms of management, not in terms of team. So the team's back at the office and they hate that, right? But the reality is that from my perspective, because of kind of the MarTech and a lot of the tech-driven stuff that we're doing, I need to be out and about and going to conferences, meeting people, etc., and kind of networking. And I don't get enough time to do these sort of things, which is quite... So here we sit and have a conversation. But I think I've never been as healthy as I am right now. I haven't taken as much time down in terms of being ill, so I don't get that. And that's because I've spent a lot of time waking up earlier, gymming every single day, taking care of myself so that I'm able to deliver to the kind of level that I'm expected to deliver. Because in some cases I've got partners. In this case, I've got my shareholders are my staff that need to be paid every month and need to be part of this. And I mean, fundamentally, I always say I work for you guys.
Pretty much.
Maybe I don't word it quite like that,
No.
but So the reality is that, I've got to make sure that I'm delivering so that everybody benefits. That's part of my orbit, as it may be. I sometimes call it the magosphere for a reason. Right?
So for me, the other question that I had is, what was the biggest mindset shift that you had to make for yourself, going from running 1 business into 3? I think for people who have that in them, who want to be entrepreneurs, or who are rather, how do you juggle that, and what is the mindset shift? I mean, we all have great ideas and concepts, and sometimes a little bit of intrusive thoughts where you're like, no, I can't. What shift did you make to get that right?
I think one of the books that'll help anybody is a book called Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And I know that sounds like such a cop-out, but I read the book in 2000, more or less 2001 when it first came out, which is 25 years ago. My God. Anyway, it was when I first started the business. One thing I realized very quickly when I read the book was that what I created was actually a job for myself. And that's what happens with most people. You leave and start your own business, and then essentially you've just created another job, which is okay. And in some cases, it's a lifestyle business, and that's where people like to be. But in order for you to take it to the next level, you have to the pivot from that is kind of understanding that people are not going to do the work the same way as you do it. Okay, so being able to say, I do it like this, and therefore everybody who does this job, whatever it is that I've created, this business, I wash a car, and the car has to be washed like this only. Now, fundamentally what you want is for the car to be clean.
End goal.
Right? So how you get there, does it really matter? So if somebody starts with the windows and then goes to the rest of the car, I'm not in the car washing business, but essentially what I'm saying is that you've got to be able to say, you do it your way. And being able to trust the people that you hire, you've got to hire right, to get on with it, right? And say, okay, I'm handing over the baton. And once you've got that mindset, then it's a lot easier to move over. Right? So you've got to be able to say, right, I've got the right people in place, and you've got to trust. It's a trust issue.
Basically, we can't be control freaks around these sort of things. 100%.
Yeah. Look, there's a not being a control freak and not allowing standards to drop, right? So from me, there's always this kind of like, where are we now? How can we do it better?
100%.
So I keep pushing that, right? The 1% rule per week. So the reality is that if you don't push it forward and we don't drive it forward all the time, then you're never going to be able to, get better, but you certainly cannot do everything. So you've got to step away and say, right, I can't do everything. There's got to be people that can pick up the pieces. Yeah. And you're going to give up something. You're going to give up money. You're going to give up whatever it is you're going to give up. But if you're prepared to give it up, you'll make it bigger. And that's entrepreneurial, right? If you're able to, you've got to expand your mind to be able to get there. So that book's great. It was a good pivot for me and made me understand the difference because of the quadrants. It talks about the 4 quadrants. Most people have probably read the book.
Yeah. So I've recently come across entrepreneurs, which I didn't know was a thing. And how do you feel about entrepreneurship and having entrepreneurs within your organization?
I think if you want to be a really successful business that can grow quite quickly, it's imperative. I believe I've got entrepreneurs in the business, and you're a prime example. Ultimately, you'll bring clients on board, and you like the entrepreneurship concept of it.
Yeah,
you like to run it, and I think there's a couple. Brian is one of them. There's a lot of people in the team that like to be able to be entrepreneurial, but within the safety, without taking the risk. Exactly. Yeah. And I think there's a lot to be said about that.
Yeah.
I often say to people like, they want to be entrepreneurs, and they'll ask me, and I said, do you really want to take on the responsibility and think about it? Because it's not for everyone. 100% entrepreneurship is not for everyone. But if you can take a business, get involved in the business, and grow the business, and become the CEO, and be the entrepreneur within a safety blanket, nothing wrong with that. That's also an option. It's not a bad option.
No, not at all.
And you'll still benefit from it, and you can still make money, and you can get shares into the business, whatever the case may be. So ultimately, it's what you bring into the game. So fundamentally, if you step up, people will recognize it. Guaranteed they will recognize it. But you've got to step up and then act like an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
So I'm very fond of it. I like it. I think it's got a lot of legs, and it's a great place for people within organizations to be entrepreneurial and be able to listen. It doesn't work for everybody, I guess, but it's how you speak to the people you work with, or your bosses or the entrepreneur in the place, and then say, this is how I would like to work. How do you feel about it? And I think most people will say, well, okay, prove it. And ultimately, the proof is in the book.
No, definitely.
That's easy. Yeah.
I think the one thing for me is you've always given us a sort of platform. So regardless of what I've come to you to say, I'd like to do this, you've always said, okay, play, but also where are we getting the money from? the biggest question.
One of my number one rules, who's paying for it?
Who's paying for it, yeah. So I think that's been a very fun aspect for me is I've always been interested in entrepreneurship, but in terms of, the risk or those intrusive thoughts, I think you've given us a platform where we can play, and it's been comfortable enough to give you crazy ideas. But most of the time you give us the craziest of all and say, figure it out. So it's been really great. Yeah. I think that's
awesome.
That's it from me.
Well, thanks for taking the time to sit with me. It's been loads of fun.
I mean, everyone wants to speak to the global citizen / entrepreneur, so it's great. Plus, I have you on speed dial, so
it's a big thing.
Yeah,
fun.
Cool.
All right, cool. We'll
Thank
catch you. Go and get some digital people running. I don't know. Make some money for clients.
That's what I do best.